So yeah, gives her a belt. Well, that's what each student had to take it in turns for a day to be like room monitor, sort of teacher's assistant, sort of getting the room wrangled, like the room wrangler, let's say. So we could do that. That'd be fun. They have to have the box, yeah. Well, they get this stupid headpiece. Sorry, Jen. I just said something rude about you. The Madonna. Yeah. I saw her on YouTube. Madonna, not the current one, not the historic one. And what is it with these women? They all look the same now. They all must go to the same plastic surgeon because they all look. Maybe it's just because this is what I do. If I wake up early in the morning and I'm just looking at my iPhone and I look at you, it's a bit of a confession. What is it? What is it? It's absolute pap. No, I don't know. I've never done Instagram. It's who's that? Is the English comedian that now runs car karaoke? I don't know why. James Corden. I don't know why, but it kind of makes me laugh. Anyway, she had this series of female pop stars who pretty much all look the same now because they've all must have gone to the same plastic surgeon. And you kind of squint your eyes a little bit and you think that's Madonna, could be Lady Gaga, could be, I don't know, any of those. But she doesn't look it because it's only when she lifts her hands up and you see her hands, you go, oh, yeah, she's 30 years older. It's extraordinary. Why do they want to look the same? The pressures of stardom, bless them. Are we meant to generate compassion now? I'll put it on the list. I'll put it on the list of things to generate compassion for. Okay, so lie on your mat, lie on your back. So remember that, earlier this morning, I warned you that today is kind of relentlessly flexing. So the eye business is a bit of respite. And again, this is a feature of the training program as opposed to how we would conduct a public workshop or a weekly class or something, to pursue something so relentlessly like this, to really hammer it home and get this experience deeper and deeper, because you're all handling it like absolute troopers. But just again, I want to just keep highlighting to you, and partly I'm saying this so that those of you who are interested in becoming teachers of awareness through movement, that this is not something that we'd recommend that you do with the general public. You really need to sign up for this. So we are going to relentlessly flex again. And so if you have that response of, oh no, not again, that's perfectly fine. Know that this is not what we would do generally. Is that all right? I make it sound like I'm a bit apologetic for it. Maybe I am. Look, I said, as Zoran well knows, I hate flexion lessons. And guess which lesson I most need to do? Lessons I most need to do. Flexion. Doesn't it shit you off? What's that saying about the thing you most need to learn? So irritating when those smarmy adages are true. So irritating. Why can't I really need extension? I love extension lessons. Do I need them? Not really. Do I get better with them? Sure. Okay. So you know what I'm going to say. Do it. That's not what I meant. No, it is. I love it when teachers set you up like that. Oh dear, the power without the glory. Good. So your feet are standing, your knees are bent, your hands are interlaced in a manner of your choosing, and they are behind your head. And you are going to generate enthusiasm and curiosity about this quest of closing the gap between your right elbow and your right knee. So there's a slight change in emphasis here now, where we've been quite strict about do not touch your elbow and knee together. If you find that your elbow and knee touch in the quest of not touching, how would that be? So what I'm saying is, can you take the intention out? Could you find a way that your elbow and your knee would waft closer together when there's no intention of them touching? Does that make sense? So this is a concept. And this is a very Feldenkraisian thing, is to take the intention out of an action in order to soften it and make it more achievable. And that can sound counterintuitive. But you're disengaging your basal ganglia, actually, because they're little, it's a taskmaster. And when you try really hard, and that's what gets in the way of you actually achieving. So this is your opportunity to have a crack without trying hard. And your interest in the outcome of your elbow and knee is pure, it's kind of academic, because actually, who cares? Jenny doesn't care and Zoran doesn't care. They both told me they don't care. If your elbow and your knee touch, they really don't care. So could you not care and find out whether they can, so the right elbow and the right knee, and then could you equally not care about the left elbow and the left knee? And of course, the not caring manifests in the fact that what you care about is the quality. And then the diagonal, so the right elbow to the left knee. And all the things we talked about this morning is that the hallmarks of quality, that it can be slow, that there is no discernible increase or decrease in effort, that there's no holding of the breath, it would be reversible, and it's pleasant. There's no judders, no hiccups. It's sustainable, it's equitable, and you can pay attention to your whole self. In your mind's eye, it's not like an elbow and a knee. There's this whole organism in relation to the floor that's bending and then not bending, and bending and not bending, folding and not folding, folding and not folding. Leave it rest long on your back for a moment. You may want to take the opportunity to check into your ink blot, your stamp of approval between your body and the floor. There's this marvelous thing that happens in Box Hill. At the beginning of a training program, they organise that the floor is quite hard. And then over the course of the years, they organise it so that the floor gets softer and more friendly and cozy. So that even in this 3 weeks, each time you lie down, you might get the experience that the floor is getting more and more cozy. Roll up to sitting. Then have your feet standing and your knees are up in the air. Interlace your fingers and put them behind your head. And see if you can get your elbows to your knees. Sorry. Miracle, look at you, you can do it. Sorry. He gets people to do this like it's something amazing. Maybe you could rest there. Just rest with your elbows on your knees. So, my friends, what is the big deal? Is the point. It's a miracle. All this nonsense about bending. Why did we do it lying on your back when you can just sit up? Isn't that, sorry, that really tickled my fancy, clearly. Oh dear. Okay, so rest there. Rest with your hands resting on the back of your head, and just lean your elbows on your knees and contemplate your navel, literally, and find out how, that. And I'm not saying it's comfortable for everybody. I'm not saying this is the way you'd like to live your life. But finding a way to make it comfortable, sustainable, is a good thing. And now he says here, take 15 minutes to find a way to roll onto your back from here. So could you find a way that you could slowly, you did the process this morning, find a way where your feet could become lighter and lighter on the floor, and that you could start rolling a little bit back. And please don't feel like you have to do it in one go. He tells people that they have to take 15 minutes, And at some point, if you really want to take your knees off your elbows, do that as well. You don't have to keep them glued. And my interpretation would be that you could imagine that they're not so much glued as you've got sort of chewing gum, and chewing gum can elongate. So if you need to elongate, remember from this morning, it's kind of the nature of the relationship. And you might find it easier to start off with your feet closer to you. Because remember, you have to, what a silly set of words that is, get that sense of your weight shifting further back onto the back of your pelvis in order to get so if you're really leaning on your elbows on your knees, then your weight is clearly forward. So how can you get your weight off your elbows and rolling back onto your pelvis? And don't feel obliged to keep them touching. Allow the chewing gum to lengthen. However, there is a relationship between the knees and the elbows. And, one mistake might be to give a little push off with the balls of your feet. You can do it, and then you realize, oh yeah, it's a bit of a cheat. Susan's seen it before. I've tried it. It's a cheat. I've given it a crack. Did she catch me out or not? Maybe she did. You know who I'm talking to. Maybe. Maybe you take your head back. Work around. It's not like I'm going to come and take marks off. Off a scorecard. I just think I had a vision of my mum coming removing stains when I said that, taking marks off. That's sorry. That is a very good comment, because I was just thinking I am rabbiting on, and it's a distraction. You've got your elbows and your knees in some kind of relationship, and you're finding a way to roll back onto your back, like you did this morning. Your hands behind your head. Yeah. Your elbows can move away from your knees, just so long as there is some sense of a relationship, and your hands stay behind your head. Now, the tendency here to want to yank your head is extreme. And can I just remind you how precious your heads and necks are? They are one of the most precious things. And it's not, rolling back onto your back is not worth pulling on your neck. So you don't do it. It's just something to explore. It's an idea. And also, if for you the idea is finding that tipping point where you kind of fall, enjoy the fall and make it an elegant and beautiful fall. Let your back round and let your chest sink is the big deal. Yeah. So there's this idea that your spine is like, you know, the runner of a rocking chair, and that you can just rock along the length of your spine. That's why I say it's kind of the ultimate massage. And you don't want to do it on a hard floor. I did it on a hard floor last night. And can I just tell you which vertebrae of mine don't flex as much? Well, they flex more, because the ones that flex the most copped it the most on the hard floor. Whereas if each vertebrae is flexing a little bit and you roll along them quite smoothly, and actually you can see that where you get the kind of plop thing is where you stop flexing. Where you get a plop kind of feeling, that's when you've stopped flexing, or a part of you has stopped flexing. If you watch somebody, if they keep their spine flexed quite evenly along the whole length of the spine, they'll rock quite evenly. When they come to an abrupt stop, it's usually because part of their spine is actually stopped flexing. So it's the relationship of the head and the shoulders staying close to the knees that keeps the rocking fairly even. So if you let your head go back too soon, that means that I'm not flexing anymore, and you'll feel it as a, that's another technical word, you'll feel it as a, yeah? So the movement is simply feedback about, do you know when you're flexing or not? And when you keep the flexing or not. And the way the people are coming up so nicely is when they stay in flexion. And if you're a really good extender like I am, that's what's hard for me, is to stay in flexion. So if you don't mind me picking on Sylvia, can you just do that one more time so people, now this is what we do in class too, and we don't do this with the public because it's picking on people, but just watch Sylvia and watch the beautiful curve of her spine. See, it just stays flexed, but it's not a rigid flexion. Like I think she's still breathing, because she can still laugh while she's doing it. Right now, how neat and beautiful is that? You know, but you've all got aspects of that beautiful. Like I can see the beautiful arc in aspects of what you're doing. And the point about Feldenkrais is, can you be satisfied with the aspect of when you're beautiful? That's true. And we call this approximations. It's successive approximations. This is for most people, this is the first time you've done this, maybe. Can you be satisfied that I can get a beautiful curve in one part of my spine for one moment of that? And is that enough? Is that approximation enough for me now? And you go, yes, it is. It is enough. Now, the fact that I kind of showed you a possibility of how it could be experienced, that in a way that's slightly cruel. However, remember in here, we're not only self-referencing, we're starting to enter into other people's experience. And that idea of that flexion is quite a useful thing to look at visually. So that's a teaser. But you can see why we wouldn't do that in public, because it could make everybody feel inadequate, right? Now, what I'm doing by showing you that is trusting that you won't go into inadequacy. Yes, that's a sign of my faith in you, that you won't do. I mean, of course, Zoran and I were looking at you all this morning, and we both thought, oh, we're so jealous. Look at them, because you've had a whole, all yesterday flexing. So you are so beautifully prepared for this. And of course, we didn't do the full lesson yesterday, and we wouldn't look like that, right? Because we didn't have all of that relentless flexing. So lie down on your back. And if you have any tendencies, if you have a strain in your neck or a strain in your sense of adequacy, just lie with it for a moment. And don't worry, well, maybe you can worry if you want. You don't have to worry. That in this class, if we invite people to look at each other, we will look at each other with very kind eyes. Okay? And that's, I know that you will do that, and you have to know that each other will do that. And we're not going to invite you to look at someone who's hurting themselves. But often we will invite you to look at, say, 2 or 3 people so you can contrast the different experiences, because it's not like everybody did it like Sylvia. Everybody has, like I said, everybody has a part of that movement that's looking beautiful. And if it's looking beautiful, chances are it's feeling beautiful. So, you know, I'll stop talking, just lie there. If you want to feel inadequate, really enjoy it. If you want to feel adequate, really enjoy it. Bend your knees and have your feet standing. Pop your hands behind your head. And once or twice, have this elbow to knee kind of exploration. And if you want to have a little giggle and remember how easy it is when you're sitting, feel free to have a little giggle. And then see if the little giggle helps you bring your elbow and your knee unintentionally closer together. So doesn't gravity make a difference? You'd have to say, wouldn't you? Because that's all that's different, is gravity. Gravity is your friend. As we say, gravity is a force for good and a force for evil. And if your aim is to get your elbows on your knees in sitting, then you have to say, you know, gravity is your friend in that position. And here, gravity is a challenge. So if you wanted to look at Feldenkrais as a sort of problem-solving idea, the challenge I've set you is to flex up against gravity. Whereas in sitting, that doesn't exist. You're collapsing down, flexing down. Gravity wants you to bend. Gravity becomes the bending force. Whereas in this position, gravity is the unbending force. See how adaptable we have to be? Every time we change position, we have to work in a different way against gravity, with gravity and against gravity. Roll up to sitting. And have your feet standing. And your hands interlaced, whichever way you like, behind your head. And this time, take your right elbow to your right knee and kind of imagine that it's slippery and the right elbow slips down inside the right knee. So that it's in between the 2 knees. And then when it's there, the 2 knees kind of grab it and squeeze it a little bit. And then try and take your elbow out again. And then while your elbow is there, maybe your left knee could slide up a little bit further. So your left foot could come off the floor. Maybe, maybe not. Could be in your imagination. What would your weight have to do? Where would your weight have to go to take the weight off of that left foot? And if you are lucky enough to fall over, rejoice. Because your weight has to shift. You have to make yourself a little bit unstable in order for that left foot to lighten so that the left knee could slide up a little bit on the inside of the right elbow. Where would your weight have to go? Leave it, just rest in a different position. You don't have to lie down, but just give just in case you're yanking on your head. I'm not saying anybody is. I actually can't tell at the moment. You're going fairly slowly, but just in case. And again, know that for some people, flexing like this is delightful, and for others, flexing is a challenge. It just tells you something about yourself, that's all. And of course, most of us are a mixture. There's parts of us that love to flex and parts of us that don't. That's the point. Now pop your hands behind your head again. And this time, sink your right elbow down between your knees. We're going to do a little variation. So Amherst here was seeing something happening that I'm not seeing particularly here, but we'll do it anyway because it's kind of, there might be a few people, it actually speaks to what I just said. But as you take your elbow down a little bit between your knees and then take it forward. Now remember Zoran's orientation forward is forward of you towards the front of the room in this instance. So forward, up, and then up, which is up towards the ceiling. So you make this kind of scooping up movement. And as you do that a few times, so the elbow goes up, what are you doing in your spine? And then you can come back and circle and your elbow goes down between your knees and then it goes up and forward and you do this kind of scooping thing. It's a very interesting movement, actually. It took him a long time to get people to do this, and look at you, you just all scoop, scoop, like you're just working in an ice cream shop. Sorry? Born to Scoop. Now there's a book title. Yeah, Born to Scoop. Yeah, that's right. Kevin said it's a band name. Perfect. Born to Scoop. I'm going to give it to my son. Death is into death metal. Can you believe it? Okay, good. Leave it. And now just drop your elbow down again and just lift up your left foot a few times. See how that is. Why would that get easier or not? Some people it does, some people it doesn't. That these little variations that we add into ATMs, for some people they're a light bulb moment, other people nothing, not even a candle. Okay, good. Just sit back for a minute, rest, give your head a rest. Check into yourself. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself. There is nobody worth taking care of more than yourself. So in Amherst, he very rarely tells people to rest because he just assumes that they'll rest when they need to, and he just keeps talking and talking and talking. And so this, these instructions can go on forever. In the videos, you'll see that people could be doing this for, a good hour or so and resting when they need to, and he doesn't interfere with that. We have chosen to teach the lessons more like we would teach the general public, in that they're a kind of concise lesson with much less chat. I'm chatting more than we usually do, but that's because. Come up to sitting if you're not already sitting. And have your feet standing, your hands behind your head. And this time, allow your left elbow to come down towards the knees and to slide just gently, just to kind of fold down in between your knees. You can go down there in several stages, and when you're there, you can find a place where you could rest there and you could still breathe. And your knees could be free enough that they could give your elbow a little bit of a squeeze or not. If you had a little itch on your elbow, you could scratch it on one of your shins, like the inside of your elbow was a little bit itchy and you could just sort of scratch it. You're not fixed there. You're dynamic. You're resting, but you're kind of resting dynamically there. And then find a way where actually you want to itch further up the inside of your elbow, but you want to scratch it with your right knee. You're going to lift your right knee up. Where would you go with your weight so that your right foot was free to lift off the floor, and that right knee could slide a little bit up the inside of your left arm? And breathing would be a non-optional requirement, i.e. it's compulsory. And then leave that, have your feet on the ground and keep your elbow there. You can come to sit up if you need to. Don't lie down unless you want to have a rest. You're welcome to have a rest. And do that little scooping motion with the left elbow. So the scooping motion of the left elbow was that it had gone down towards the floor between your knees, and then you kind of push it forward in front of your knees and up in this little born to scoop, we'll call it. So there's the drop, and then the forward, and then the up. It does look a little bit like you're digging with your elbow. And then again, just allow your left elbow to settle down there and see how it is to lift your right foot. And maybe as you lift your right foot, that just destabilizes you enough and you could find a way to roll onto your back and have a rest. So it'd be kind of an asymmetrical roll. No big deal. It's just for fun. Let's do something a little bit different. We touched on this yesterday. Excuse me. Bend your knees up and have your feet standing. Your hands behind your head. And bring your right knee and your right elbow together a few times. In that non-intentional, oh, whoops, they touched kind of way. But they don't, and again, they don't have to touch. It's not the point. It's the clarity of the movement. And when they get to a certain distance from each other, the right elbow and the right knee, could you do those little tiny oscillations as if they're kind of, twitching towards each other in a way, little tiny fast millimeter movements, beep, 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 like that. Good. And then, so your left foot is still on the floor. Find a way that you can let go of the oscillations. And as you bring your right elbow and right knee sort of in the vicinity of each other, could you find a way that would take your weight more to the left? And that you could find a way. Now your eyes will be helpful here. So if your right elbow and your right knee are coming together, and let's say your eyes go more to the left, could you soften your left elbow a little bit so that it's not part of the equation so much? It's not like it wants to go. It's not interested in knees. I'm just hanging around. Right. That might help with this idea that as your right elbow and right knee come together, that the weight could shift on the floor. Instead of having an ink blot under both sides of your chest and your pelvis, that actually the lifting of the elbow and the knee could also reduce the ink blot on the right side of you, underneath you. So for some people, your head's going a long way over to the left, and that's an option. So there's three good options happening in the room, that the head is going over to the left a lot. Some other people, the right shoulder is really going over to the left a lot. And some people, the right hip is really going, like the right side of the pelvis is going over to the left. And for the fourth option is, of course, all three. So could you systematically try all three and then put them together so that gently your eyes and nose, so i.e. your head, unless you can disconnect your eyes and your nose, that means your head goes over to the left as if you're kind of looking towards the floor on the left. Could it be more that the inclination is that your right shoulder folds over towards the left? Or could it be that your right hip folds over towards the left? See if my language makes sense to you, and that all three could do it. And that at some point you could find yourself on your left side. And you can power over, or you can find a way that it's simply, you destabilize yourself enough that you can do a controlled fall over there. And then the controlled fall becomes so controlled that it's no longer a fall, and it's actually, slow and reversible. So that the outside of your left leg is on the floor, your left elbow is on the floor. You are, but for all intents and purposes, lying on your left side. And you could rest there. You could snooze there. In fact, have a snooze there. When you find yourself on your left side, have a little snooze. A little Feldy nap, which means it's about 2 seconds long. And then find a way to go, oh crap, I was asleep. And then you reorient your right knee and right elbow together, and they lift up and go back towards the ceiling. So it's that right elbow, right knee conglomerate that has this desire to go ensemble together over to the right. And then it has this desire to come back in the direction of the ceiling. So that it's simply a question of folding. You just fold to roll. So you can fold up or you can fold over, like a fan. Could sing a Suzanne Vega song to you. That would freak you out. There's some lyric, what is it? Something that the Queen folds herself up like a fan. I love that image. Fold yourself up like a fan. Now there's something about that upper leg, so the right leg, that if it doesn't go over too soon, can you feel how it kind of counterbalances you? It kind of wants to go over to the left, but it'll control you. It's kind of your rudder. And you use the weight of that leg to control that roll. And then once you're there, it can close up like a fan. And then it opens out and pulls you back. Now, all of you have got elements of beauty in this movement, whether you can feel them or not. I'm just telling you. Harder to come back? Yeah. So notice that. Notice where it feels like there has to be an effort, and you go, beauty, all right, I'm a work in progress. Fantastic. Fantastic. Oh, fantastic. You think I've got a fan fetish? Beautiful. Leave it, rest on your back for a moment. So that's quite a different proposition to yesterday, right? Do you remember how you did it yesterday? There's an awful lot of plopping in the room. You'd all gone into that kind of, we're a bit overcooked and we don't know what we're doing. There was that kind of sense in the room, which is fine. Because that's a great learning space. And now there's this kind of deliberateness in the room, this sort of intention in the room that's very soft. So what's the influence of that rolling on your lying down, your lyingness? It could be like, you know, the name for His Holiness. It could be your lyingness. If we're going to worship the floor, you might as well be a bunch of your lyingnesses. Anything tweaky you pay a little bit of attention to, in that you make a little resolution, I will look after you a little better next time, and I will make some of the other lazy bugger bits of me do a bit more of the activity. And imagine, think through what that might feel like to do it rolling onto the right side. So remember the kind of intention, which is that you have this initial intention that your left elbow and your left knee have decided to come together. And when they come together, they think, you know what? We, ensemble, want to go over to the right. So there's this clear double intention of being together and going over to the right. So think it through, and I deliberately use the word think it, because these are a series of thoughts, and then start attaching some likely sensory tags, your own sensory signposts. What you predict might be useful, that you might feel, that you remember from feeling to the right, so that shift of the weight, paying attention to the pelvis rolling or the shoulders rolling or the eyes looking or something like that. Some little sensory tags. You might want to add in the feeling aspect of it too, that maybe there was a, whatever feelings you had, a little quiet sense of, oh, this is nice to roll onto my side, or I feel cozy on my side, or I like this feeling of closing down, or I like this feeling of opening up, or it makes me feel something, whatever it is. And go ahead and do it in reality, or this version of reality. So remember, gravity is your friend here. You only have to unweight enough of you and gravity will take you over. So at some point it becomes a point, there's a point where you're kind of rolling, you know, you're lifting away from the floor, but your right side is actually going down into the floor. And then there's a point where gravity will want to take your left side and have it fall over. So that's where you kind of counterpoise and you slow gravity down and you say, no, this isn't control. I'm going to do a controlled fall. It's a controlled roll. But that point is absolutely delicious because you know how to work with and against gravity in a way that just feels it's nice and it looks good. It's seamless. Sorry? And describe the coming back. So you lift your left knee. So you're going to open your knees apart and then open your left elbow. So what you're often forgetting is to take your left shoulder back as well. And then keep going back and back and back. And now gravity will pull you there. No, you're not folding. No. Yeah. You can do it. You can do it keeping your knee and elbow in some kind of relationship. Because in a sense, you haven't unfolded, have you? You are still folded while you're on your side. That's a roll. It's not what I'm calling a fold. A fold is a flexion. Folding is forward. Yeah. Keep folding, and then the folding goes over. That's it. You take the fold over. That's it. So you're already unfolding. You're unfolding to come back. You can keep the fold and come back, actually. It's a distinction. I'm being pedantic with you because you asked, but there. You can keep that elbow and the knee close together. Keep it, but keep it moving. Keep that elbow and the knee moving. Yeah. I remember in our training, when some of our trainers confessing that after their training, they used to get together in little study groups and they set themselves a task of how many different ways they could roll. And guess how many? Over 1,000 distinct ways of rolling. Now, these guys are pedants. Well, we can't say that because one of them passed away in December. Fantastic minds and curious and disciplined. So this is just one of many, let's say. Very nice. Leave at rest. Take a moment to settle and find some peace and contentment lying down. What I'll propose is you have a 2.5 minute water in, water out break, and then come back to the floor and we'll finish some more variations of this. Otherwise, we'll be flexing tomorrow. That's just I'll make it sound like a punishment. If we don't finish today, we'll be flexing tomorrow.